I just want to start off by saying that this Chainsaw Man Reze movie arc is absolute cinema. So before I dive deeper into this whole thing, just stay tuned to the end of the video so you can know about my rating for this movie. And also stick around so you can hear more of my thoughts when it comes to the parallels between Reze and Denji as characters. Let me first start talking about my experience going to the theaters for this movie. What made this movie experience even more interesting is the fact that, like, my older brother, he doesn't watch anime or anything like that at all. So to see his experience and his feelings and emotions for this movie is quite interesting. He is someone that hasn't watched the anime at all, and yet he still enjoyed the movie. Did see a few other reviewers saying that you can watch this movie without actually watching the first season, and I mean, he's a good testament to exactly that sentiment being said here. Gotta say, let me start off with the animation for this review to start talking about, like, this movie here. It was fantastic. Mappa, I honestly think, literally outdid themselves this time around when it comes to the animation department when it comes to Chainsaw Man. I dare say that this, on a 2D standpoint, 2D is probably the best 2D animation I've ever seen in anything ever. Just all the cinematography and the type of, like, sequences of the action, I just never seen something like that before. It was breathtaking, especially seeing it on the big screen like that. And what made my viewing experience a little bit differently, because I told you guys I watched it in 3D, the fact that the 3D aspects of it was insane. Just imagine all the fight scenes you've seen in this movie, right? And imagine all that stuff just, like, getting hit in your face, like it's there. Like, it was a very, very explosive experience. And not only is the animation just top tier, fantastic, 10 out of 10, I gotta talk about that soundtrack. Just a soundtrack, like the sound design, like just the sounds in general in this movie, also top notch. Was going ham, going crazy when I heard Maximum the Hormone, their ending, freaking being played here. I was like, bro, what is this? But I just want to give credit to the sound design here, because when it comes down to some of the slower moments, they really hit the ballpark on really setting the scene very well. And I also got to say this, when it comes to this particular arc, I've said this many a times throughout my live streams and anytime I talk about Chainsaw Man, this particular arc for Reze was the arc that needed to be a movie. I'm just so glad that I was correct in my analysis, baby. So I gotta say, at the end of the day, I do feel as though, even if you're somebody that's on the casual side of, like, anime or don't really watch too much anime to begin with, I think you can find something great about this movie. As weird as Denji can be, and he can be a very weird guy, this type of tragic love story, because you've seen this many times, different types of films, but this just does it in a different way, and it's unique in its own way because of it. And I feel as though this movie right here could be the bridge to get people to watch season 1 of Chainsaw Man. All right, so you're at the part of the video where we're going to be talking about spoilers for the movie. And there might be some light spoilers when it comes to the current Chainsaw Man series. I am someone that currently reads Chainsaw Man on a week-to-week basis, so, you know, I have a different perspective a little bit on the content that I'm actually viewing here. I promise I won't get too heavy in manga content. It's just there's certain aspects I want to, like, kind of bring up that is still playing along even into this day and age. So you have been warned. Get back talking about the soundtrack just real quick. So I want to talk about Iris Out and Jane Doe. Iris Out, I feel like what this song kind of is entailing, not necessarily from just the lyrics per se, but I feel like the connection between Iris Out and Jane Doe kind of go a bit deeper here, because it all goes back to perspective again. See, in this movie, Makima just randomly appears all of a sudden and then stops freaking Reze, and the whole movie's done because she ends up cutting that whole thing off. Those rats to be able to actually survey and keep an eye on everything. So as their relationship was unfolding and all being beautiful in the freaking scene, in the water and, you know, the pool and all that, yeah, she saw all that. This is why I think it kind of connects more to even to Makima in the sense when it comes to Iris Out, because I think she always has an eye on the whole situation. So then we go back into Jane Doe, because then we have to ask ourselves, like, when it comes to Reze, do we even know her? Why it's called Jane Doe is because, I mean, Jane Doe is just a placeholder name for the unknown, the unidentified. That's why I talk about with perspective, because it seems as though we don't really know much of anything, or what we're actually really seeing, what was actually true here. The movie kind of gives you an idea when it comes to what is actually true, when it comes to their love. When it comes to Denji and Reze, they do share a bond. Not to say like the manga did a bad job, but the way they animated this and how they showed this, I feel like gives you a clearer picture. Especially considering when it comes to the fandom, I feel like people always ask the question, like, did Reze actually have feelings for Denji? And what we see here, I feel like there's been too many instances where, like, Reze wanted to bring him with her, but Denji always had some other excuse or a reason why he couldn't. That's why the city mouse, country mouse thing was such an interesting concept, because like Reze is the country mouse. Denji wants to be the city mouse, and that's where the two kind of come in and they clash together a little bit here. There's a few other instances within the movie that kind of showcase like his decisions ultimately can't work with them. That's why it's a tragic love story. They're saying, man, I want to still, you know, work this good cushiony job and this and that and the other, but you're like, you're only living the life that Makima wants you to live. He doesn't see that nor understands it. Again, going back to perspective. Another thing I kind of want to actually touch upon here is the whole country mouse, city mouse thing. This goes a bit deeper into like the manga, seeing where Denji's character is now. It's so freaking weird because like, he's the type of character that keeps doing the same thing over and over again, even in part 2. Because this dude can't seem to just choose and make a decision. And it explains why this particular devil bring this up to him, because it's like, I didn't realize just how much this happens with Denji. He has an option of going left or right, and he always finds this weird middle ground where he tries to anyways, and ultimately, a lot of the times it doesn't work. And in this instance where it's like, he could have just simply ran away with her. Now, granted, I don't think that would have worked anyways, because Makima had eyes everywhere, so I don't think that was going to work. But there was an option for him, as opposed to, oh, I'm just going to sit here and have this cushy life. So going back and like watching this, you know, as a manga viewer myself, it's just quite interesting to see how Denji hasn't really grown out of that indecisiveness. In the end, I do feel as Reze actually had actual emotions for Denji and vice versa, because she did decide to run at the end here and go back because her body told her to, not what her mind said. And that's the parallel between the two characters, because they both, when it comes down to it, their bodies wanted this to work, but unfortunately, they just can't do it. And with the city mouse, country mouse thing was also quite funny here. If you remember what Makima said here, Makima said, oh, she loves the country mouse. But do you know why she loves the country mouse? Because if you remember the explanation of how the city mouse is and the country mouse is, the city mouse is something that likes going into these adventures and doesn't care about the danger. The city mouse is actually just harder to control. Whereas the country mouse, one that just wants to live in solitude, wants to just be in its own little bubble and just kind of just chill and do their own thing. Sounds very peaceful, sounds very nice, but that is so much easier to control than the city mouse. There's a bit of a metaphor when you see her come out with all these rats and then she just pops out of nowhere and then stops Reze in her tracks. Because it doesn't matter if you're a city mouse or a country mouse, you will get got because you will be seen, because you cannot stop Makima. So this has been my review for Chainsaw Man Reze movie arc. This is a fantastic movie. It's probably the best adapted work I've seen in a minute. Mappa has really outdone themselves when it comes to the adaptation of this. One thing to have great animation, but to actually adapt the source material the way they did here, this is a masterclass work that I can't help but keep praising. And it's funny because when I first got out the movie theater, I just gave this movie an 8 out of 10. I see now that I'm kind of tripping a little bit. I don't know why I said that, because this is clearly a much better movie than 8 out of 10. It's a solid at least 9 out of 10 for me. The only con I would say that could potentially be with this movie is the fact that it drags along just a little bit in the first half of the movie here. So I can find people that go into this, they can be a little bit bored in a sense at times when it comes to how we're setting up the themes and the feels for later on. So this is a 9 out of 10 movie for me. What are your thoughts on Chainsaw Man Reze movie arc? Please leave in the comment section below. I love to know your opinions on all of this. Let's talk more about this movie. I'm pretty sure there's other things that we can actually dissect and talk further into, especially as manga readers and things like that, we can get into. So please, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I will be covering all things Chainsaw Man going forward. Anything Taichi Fujimoto makes, because I will be here for all the other shorts, stories that he has that are becoming like an anime. I plan to watch and review those as well, so please stick around for that. So until then, people, break out.